So yesterday we had a dramatic season opener at Estoril for the International GTOpen, and we continue things today with a 60-minute race. 12 minutes for driver changes in the middle. This 4.182 kilometre Circuito Estoril circuit, about 2.6 miles in length, provided us with drama and action in spades yesterday, and we are expecting much the same here. We've lost a couple of cars since yesterday owing to that mammoth fourth corner crash that you saw in that little highlight reel we just played you. And still though, a hugely strong grid that we've got with this car, the pole sitter, the 777 Olymp car of Marcin Jedlinski, and the driver that starts, Karol Baz. But my name's Adam Weller, and I'd like to welcome along George Morgan, who is my co-commentator here today. George, we saw a very interesting qualifying session, and this man, Axel Jeffries, he was both fabulous on the circuit, but also had some technical issues.
Peaks and troughs, I think is probably the right terminology here for Axel Jeffries. I mean, don't get me wrong, great to be on the front row. He was at some point in time on top, but of course, electrical issues were what plagued him. There's Adam Christiandoulou, who actually pulled off a great session himself as well, managing to secure P3. But going back to Axel, he of course suffering that electrical fault. We had confirmation from the garage that that was the case. Let's hope that it's okay going into the race.
As the weekend has gone on, we've seemingly had more and more cars sprout bits of bare carbon fibre where they've had various incidents. You saw that on the Team GT car we just looked at, Alan Valente there in fourth position. This is the first of the Pro Class runners. The 4 cars ahead are all Pro-Ams. Glenn Van Berlo, 5th place in qualifying in the number 19 Lamborghini. That is the car that came 3rd yesterday. This was the car that took the win yesterday, and this is the driver that took the checkered flag at the wheel, Benji Hites, teaming with Leonardo Polcini. They'll be looking to make it 2 from 2. Nick Moss, who starts this car, the Optimum Motorsport McLaren 720S GT3, another Pro Class entry, as you can see with the red number on that graphic we just looked at. Joe Osborne taking a wry look at the camera. They'll be looking to make their way up through the order and maybe try and get a win that they feel they deserve from yesterday. Seb Baud there in the French driver in one of the Get Speed Mercedes, and then you see another multicoloured arrangement, Christian Koronovsky in the number 5 Olymp Racing Ferrari there in 9th place. In 10th, there you see Kiki Saknana alongside Adam Osaka. Adam Osaka, the boss of Get Speed, who is teaming with Kiki, giving us a wave there. He was optimistic going into qualifying, and he proved himself by taking 2nd among the AM cars behind that number 5 Olymp Ferrari. Alexander Krakowina, we saw him have a couple of spins, or a singular spin that took quite a while to recover from at turn 12 in quali, but still managed to get his car up the order. And then we have Janine Shafner, who qualified this Pro-Am Get Speed Performance entry today. Her new Phoenix-esque livery on the helmet. She's very proud of that. She showed that to you, didn't she, George? She made great efforts to show you the new lid.
Yeah, we had a nice chat with Janine Shafner, showing us the new helmet, of course, telling us a story about how she bought a boat in Barry Island as well.
There you go.
Which I have to say was great for me, because my home country, of course. But yes, here's the AF Corsa car as well, this one being driven by Laurent de Meus. The Belgian there sat in 14th place, partnering alongside Jamie Stanley. Give us a wave there, Laurent. Hello. Hope you're keeping well. And I'm sure he is. And I'd imagine he'll be looking forward to a great race. Here is Murat Çuradaroglu's car, and that is on P15 on the grid. We spoke to Murat earlier on. I think he's hoping for a better day today, I think, Adam?
Yes, exactly. I think maybe following qualifying, cautious optimism, maybe. He was a bit on the fence about his performance in the race yesterday, but we'll see how he goes. And then Omar Jackson there towards the tail of the order. The number 77 car being started by Omar today. You saw Charlie Hollings alongside him as we took a look at the camera shot there. Hollings will, of course, take the car over about halfway through The pit window will open with 24 minutes in the books and close with 36 minutes completed. It's an hour-long race versus an hour and 10 minutes. Yesterday, a resplendent grid of cars then lined up for this race, which should be getting underway in just a few moments' time. But before we get to the race today, let's take a look back at yesterday, because there was a lot going on. You see a fairly good rolling start for David Fuminelli, who was our pole sitter in the 133 Kessel racing car, but it didn't take long for things to rather unfurl. Steve Jans having a bit of a moment, collecting Alex Franceschetti from there. Stephen Earle and Jedlinski both unable to avoid the stricken Alberoni Rapante Lamborghini. A long red flag was followed by a safety car restart. There were some dramas in the pits for the 133 car, some dramas on the track for the AF Corsa Ferrari, the 55 Laurent de Meus taking over from James Stanley. That car was in AM contention. That spin cost them the win. And then there was this wonderful move from Benji Hites to get past Nick Moss, made it through. Nick Moss then tried to carry speed through the corner, went wide onto the gravel, and unfortunately finished second best. Oregon team with a debut win in the International GT Open. Both Pulcini and Hites delighted with their result yesterday. They'll be looking to replicate that again here this afternoon. And so here are, I believe, the Drivers' Championship standings as they sit at the moment. 15 points for Hites and Pulcini, 12 for Osborne and Moss, Giardoni and Van Berlo on 10 apiece, and the Pro-Am leaders, Christodoulou and Jafali, fourth in the overall classification as well. So some very competitive showings in that first race of the season. We expect the competition to only strengthen as the year goes on at Paul Ricard. So it's going to be imperative for the teams that are here today and the teams that survived race one as well to put points on the board here today in race number 2. Carol Bass there on pole position. Carol Bass, as we were saying, on pole position, and George, we saw him in qualifying put in a stellar drive. That gave him pole. Axel Jeffries, though, he'll be ruining what could have been in that session. Adam Christodoulou, third on the grid. Valente, fourth, as you can see. Expect Valente to be on the attack. I saw him driving an e-scooter indoors earlier. I'm not sure on the logistics of that one. Didn't want to walk, obviously. Van Berlo and Hites on the third row, an all Lamborghini affair, an all Oregon affair for good measure. Nick Moss in a McLaren 720S GT3 in the pro class, and Seb Bowe rounding out the first 4 rows of the grid. Christian Koronovsky in 9th and Adam Osaka in 10th. That's the first row of AM drivers, as it were. Krakowina there alongside Janine Shafner. I think those two have raced each other a couple of times before on the Nürburgring, if I'm not mistaken. Dexter Muller in 13th place. Great to see him in the paddock as well. Very friendly face. Laurent de Meus in at 14th. Murat Shradaroglu and Omar Jackson rounding out the order as we've gone through. But just to circle back to Carol Bass, though, that pole lap, we thought no one could best Axel Jeffries in quali, George. Of course, Axel could have bested himself. He looked like he could have gone quicker without those electrical issues, but still, the Olim Audi driver really put in a stellar showing. Yeah,
we didn't quite find out what lap that could have been from Axel Jeffries, because the first sector, despite Carol Bass going pole, it was a purple first sector regardless for Axel Jeffries. We didn't get to see the remainder of the lap, and unfortunately Axel Jeffries, because of the electrical failure, ended up losing power out of the chicane out of Gancho. Very, very harsh, certainly for him to go through, but there we have it. It's just the way things go, I suppose, sometimes.
Okay. So the Axel Jeffries, as you said, I think he would have comfortably got into the 133s. Seeing as he was in the very low 134s before, and we saw it was a third of a second up, 2 seconds into his fastest flying lap. He had 2 separate outages in the car, courtesy of electrical issues. He had to turn it on and off again a couple of times. And unfortunately, he's now not getting the car underway here. So have the electrical gremlins re-emerged for Axel Jeffries. There's confusion and disillusion potentially in the Kessel Racing garage as they try and figure out what's going on. They were confident they'd sorted it, and now Axel Jeffries gets the car underway. Now, by my understanding, he should still be able to start the race where he was qualified, but here's the interview with the pole sitter.
I think we make maximum that we can, and we prepared very well the car after yesterday damage in the race one. So thank you for the team that they work in the night to prepare the car, and it's very good. So let's push like this.
There you go. So that was Karel Bass after, just moments after he got out of the car after qualifying. We see there Axel Jeffries scything back through the order. He will be able to take up his intended starting position, although I think some of the other drivers not making it easy for Axel. Because they're kind of doing quite a fast formation lap here, and he's going to need to get back towards the front row of the grid. Jeffrey should be able to start from the outside of the front row, however, and you actually see him here trying to pick his way through. It's like we've got a race already. Jeffrey's desperately trying to pick his way through, and he's now done so he can assume his rightful place on the grid. Of course, they don't have to do a standing start here in International GTOpen. He's not going to have to bring the car to a stop again, but given what happened twice in qualifying and what's now happened coming off the grid, I'm sure he's going to be at least a little concerned.
It's the last thing you want on your mind. You don't want any doubts heading into the start of a new race, and naturally those gremlins, as you so rightly said, re-emerging here at the start of this formation lap. Luckily enough though, getting it back underway, putting himself back in his position. Hopefully everything's okay, but will that affect the level that he can push the car at? And that is the key point to make.
Well, it seemed to be, and the team confirmed this as well with us walking the paddock afterwards, that the clattering of the curbs was what caused Axel Jeffries some issues. So yes, of course it could affect him. He may not feel as comfortable attacking racing lines through some of these corners where you really do have to attack the curbs to go quickly. Nonetheless, he's there on the front row of the grid. The grid is in 2x2 formation. This is the Parabolica Ayrton Senna, the final corner on this 4.182 kilometre layout here at Estoril. They're going to be underway for 60 minutes of racing in the International GTOpen. On your inside of the front row, it's Karel Bass. On the outside, Axel Jeffries. Keep an eye on the Mercedes duo on row 2. Adam Christodoulou in the 18 FIBA Motorsport car on the inside. Alain Valente on the outside line, and those Pro Lamborghinis. Keep an eye on them for good measure. There's lots of competitive cars at the front of the order. The red lights are still on, and now they're off and they're racing. It's a good start from Karel Bass. Nick Moss getting a really good start in the McLaren as well. He's trying to sneak up the inside. It's Karel Bass who will lead into turn 1. Jeffries filters through in second. Then it's Christodoulou. And then I think in 4th place, that might be Glenn Van Berlo. Certainly one of the Oregon Lamborghinis is through into 4th. No, that's the 63 car of Benji Hites, actually, that's got himself up to 4th. 5th place, Alain Valente. Then it is Glenn Van Berlo in the 19. Sebastian Baud follows in 7th place. Nick Moss, despite the good start, only as far down as 8th place. Now this time, yesterday, there was a bit of a moment here at turn 4. Let's hope they all get through cleanly on this occasion. It certainly seems as if everyone has got through okay at least. Karel Bass leads them though at the front of the order. Karel Bass in the 777 Olymp Racing Audi. It wasn't even scheduled to be an Audi on the entry list, George, but they've adapted to that car wonderfully.
Yeah, they certainly have. And how about Van Berlo as well, getting past Alain Valente afterwards. So both Oregon cars make their way through this time. Sebastian Baud also looking to find his way through too. He's right in behind in the other Mercedes as well as Nick Moss. Oh, just rubbing on the gravel there as they now make their way up through the turns 9 and 10 at Gancho Corner. You can see them now making the climb. It looks a lot steeper than what it actually is, I think, but no, as they rise their way through now out of turn 11 and 12 round the Parabolica Ayrton Senna. As you can now see, Janine Shafner will be right on board with now, trying to hit every apex she can as they now begin to power down the straight here at Estoril. Certainly leading at this moment, Karel Bass getting things off to a flyer. Axel Jeffries though not far behind, only 0.8 of a second, with then in behind Christodoulou looking sharp, and here comes Alain Valente having a look, but nothing happening around turn 1.
Nothing happening as yet, but he's certainly looking feisty on the back of Glenn Van Berlo. Van Berlo's going to have to create a wide Lamborghini. Also want to shout out Omar Jackson. He's got himself up to 13th position there on the first lap, to see that he's made up some places. as we've gone through this first single lap of racing. We are on lap 2 of this 60-minute race. And Valente did look racy there, didn't he? Going into turn 1 behind Van Berlo. Good to see that Sebastian Bald has kept his nose clean on the first lap as well. He didn't get to do any driving yesterday, of course, because it was his teammates that qualified the car. And Steve Jans, his teammate, then also, of course, had the incident, or was involved in the incident on lap number 1. So Sebastian getting his first seat time today since Friday. Carol Bash, meanwhile, being pursued by Axel Jeffries. Now, from what we saw in qualifying, Axel Jeffries could have the potential to go faster than Carol Bash, but single lap pace and race position are two very different things. Carol Bash continues to lead the way, but I think we've got a mighty clash of the titans towards the head of the order. The pros and the Pro-Am drivers at the top of the pack are some of the best we have in the paddock here this weekend. Carol Bash, Axel Jeffries, Adam Christodoulou, Benji Ites, and Glenn Van Berlo. That's quite a top 5, but Alan Valente would very much like to be in that top 5. He's closing in behind Glenn Van Berlo. Is not close enough for a move on this occasion, though.
Yeah, nice flash of the lights as well down the home straight, almost saying, I'm there, Van Berlo, I'm right on your tail. There you can see the Team GT car, all blazing silver with a nice luminous yellow stripe going through it, now running through towards turn 3 as they make this now almighty climb at this next right and through the next left. There you can see Axel Jeffries still probing on the back of Carol Bash, who's doing a superb job just marshalling the approach there from the Kessel Racing car. Here we ride on board with Axel Jeffries as you now make their way down through towards turn 6, the interior parabolica, and they'll ease the braking as they now make their way in towards the next lap. Still the Audi holding its own, the Audi R8 LMS Evo 2, as they now make their way through towards turn 7 before they then reach turn 8 out of the Aurelia corner. Still the Audi in front. Christodoulou on his own currently, 1.5 seconds away from Axel Jeffries. The gap, though, further back is starting to grow between him and Benji Hites, so he's doing a great job in terms of that. Glenn Van Berlo also there too with Alan Valente, starting to get closer indeed. He's within 0.3 of a second, in fact, as you can now see as we look back at the Audi of Carol Bash with Axel Jeffries still making all kinds of moves in the rear, maybe giving him something to think about as they make their way down the home stretch. They're within 0.5 second of each other as they now round the Parabolica Ayrton Senna. Past the paddock on the right, you can see the banners there. Circuito Estoril here as they now come through the start-finish line, past the lights as they've now dawned down towards turn 1. Action going on in the back. You can see there the Oregon cars going maybe side by side in the background as that Alan Valente now making his way through on the outside in towards turn 1. The Mercedes looking at the Lamborghini and saying, I want some of this, in towards turn 1. No move quite could be done yet. Glenn Van Berlo moved to the inside, pulled off exactly the defensive manoeuvre he needed to do. Yeah,
Van Berlo realised incredibly early on that he was going to have to go defensive. I think he recognised Alan Valente had a mighty run out of the Parabolica Ayrton Senna. And as they go through curb VIP for the 4th time in this race, both of the Oregon team Lamborghinis are well within the firing line of the menacing grey and yellow Mercedes in 6th position. Axel Jeffries continues to hold on to the back of Carol Bash, and look at him just struggling, not struggling, but seeing the car fight him every inch of the way through turn 6 at Parabolica Interior, and then down through Orella, a corner that you realise when you see it in person is a lot steeper on the decline than you'd realise just looking at it from the TV pictures. Here's Omar Jackson having a good little battle here with Dexter Muller, and an all Mercedes battle ahead of that as Janine Shafner continues to hold off Alexander Krakowina. So down outside the top 10, all sorts of fighting going on. Shafner not letting Krakowina work by that easily. The Austrian driver is going to have to work a little harder for it. Omar Jackson continues to defend from Dexter Muller as well, and Murat Hadaroglu just behind them for good measure. So a good scrap going on further back. Jeffries looks to the inside for the lead. He's not close enough yet, though. Axel Jeffries, though, in that 73 car, he did such wonderful things in qualifying. He's really going to want to try and get past Carol Bash and almost make amends for quali. He's going to want to get past and give Roman Zemian, his teammate, teammate as big of a cushion as he can in the second stint of the race.
He certainly does. The car looking okay though at this moment in time. He goes and maybe has a look side by side. There's a lot of switching around going on in behind. Still Karel Bash though holding his own. Axel Jeffries now within 3.5 tenths of a second. Look at Adam Christodoulou as well. Remember, he is now pulled in that gap by another 4 tenths. Remember, he was nearly 4.5 before. He's now 5 seconds ahead of Benji Hites, so he's making great strides in third place and has maintained a 1.5 second gap behind Axel Jeffries, who incidentally still tries to march upon Karel Bash right now, as we're now in the 52-minute mark nearly of this race so far. Remember, these drivers need to prepare for driver changes halfway through this event. Obviously, when the stint comes live, that is when we'll see the other drivers make their moves, moving to the cars and pull off their race too. But there we can see the car number 54. That is indeed the property of Muller, who's currently in 14th place. Doing okay, Dexter Muller. Omar Jackson ahead of him, who's made a gargantuan number of places off the back of the grid. So no qualms about his performance so far. He's had a sterling start.
Truly he has, yes, absolutely. Here we go again then with Axel Jeffries in the slipstream of Karel Bash down the main straight. The Audi looks like it's got a slightly better run out of Parabolica Ayrton Senna. The 5.2 litre V10 screams towards turn 1, still in the lead of the race then. Axel Jeffries shadowing him every inch of the way, and Adam Christodoulou in third position there, just lurking in the background also. Now Christo, since he won Pro-Am yesterday along with Rima Jafali, they will have to serve a 10-second penalty for being classified first in Pro-Am during the pit stop, so they'll have a slightly longer stop as Dexter Muller up the inside, and oh, Omar Jackson's gone for a spin. I think he may have been helped there by Shahada. We'll have to see if we get a replay of that, but Omar Jackson, who was doing quite the job defending up against Dexter Muller, has unfortunately been sent into a spin. I saw some telltale damage on Shahada front end as well, so I do think that Omar Jackson was assisted in that spin, but thankfully he's got the car underway. He will get going again. That's hugely disappointing though, and that car's going to have to come in, because you see there the splitter is grinding against the road. He's not going to be able to keep doing laps with that.
No, not at all. The damage very distinctive on the back of Omar Jackson's car, and not good for Kessel Racing either. Karel Bash though still out in front. You can see on our pictures Alan Valente still giving Glenn Van Berlo a hard time, 3 tenths of a second in behind him, as you can now see the Audi of Bash now still leading as they round the final corner at turn 13. You can see now Axel Jeffries oh so close. Is there enough slipstream? Can he make a move in towards turn 1? Maybe. As they now make the climb down, there's the 2 Team Oregon cars. Alan Valente back again. Will he have a look this time? Remember, they went side by side earlier on, but Glenn Van Berlo did enough to hold him off before. Can he hold him off again? Alan Valente still not close enough heading in towards turn 1. Not this time. I get the feeling there's a bit of teamwork going on between the 2 Oregon cars right now, fending off the approach from Alan Valente in behind, giving themselves maybe a good position when the driver swaps occur.
Quite possibly so, yes. I mean, it would make more sense for them to not be stuck behind the Team GT Mercedes after the stops if they can possibly avoid it, especially since it will probably be a little bit slower once Alan Valente hands it over. We saw there Van Berlo went incredibly wide out of turn 1. The incident involving cars 133, that's Shahada Roglu, and 77, that's Omar Jackson, is under investigation. So the race control also seeing the collision there. It's under investigation. We'll see what the decision is there. Meanwhile, Alan Valente, he is looking eager, isn't he? Oregon, whether they're working together or not, the 2 Oregon Lamborghinis, Alan Valente would really like to pick his way past these multicoloured machines.
Definitely. They're looking, well, they're all over his front windscreen right now. I bet I bet he'd rather not have them in front of him right now. He's been looking for a way past Van Berlo for quite some time, but Glenn Van Berlo marshalling him very, very well. Benji Hites is also in 4th place. Oregon doing a sterling job to hold on to their positions, as now we're witnessing, as we can see, Axel Jeffries having a look down the inside, obviously not in any position to make a move just yet, but just having a nose, just letting Karel Bash know that he's still there. Adam Christodoulou is still holding on to his gap currently, still remains at 1.4 seconds. Again, Alan Valente having a look down the inside of Glenn Van Berlo, but no way through it. A flash of the lights. Aggression, Adam. I like it.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. Same here. Here's Omar Jackson in the Kessel Ferrari. That's unfortunately looking rather worse for wear. We'll have to see whether the car makes it back out or not. Certainly a fair bit of damage to the rear end. It is repairable, but the question is, do you bother? It's not an endurance race. It's not as if he's got 23.5 hours left to pick his way back through. Certainly Omar's out of the car. He's less than impressed as he confers with Charlie Hollings, and that could be day done for those two. Axel Jeffries, though, in another of the Kessel Ferraris, all over the back of Carol Bash. Now, it's worth noting, come the pit stops, Carol Bash, whose car finished third in Pro-Am yesterday, will not have any extra seconds on his pit stop. Axel Jeffries, second yesterday. That car will have to have 5 seconds extra hold in the pits, and it's 10 seconds for this one, Christodoulou, in the FIBA Motorsport Mercedes. So as it stands, Carol Bash could be in a really strong position, and handing the car over in a strong position to Marcin Jedlinski. If they don't have a penalty and they have the lead anyway, they could have quite an advantage over the chasing pack in the second phase of this race.
They certainly could do. Any effort that Carol Bash can put into giving his teammate Marcin Jedlinski would be certainly well received, I am sure. But in behind, Axel Jeffries going to make sure that doesn't happen again. Alan Valente having a look down the inside, and certainly, I think he's having a torrid time there. I can't imagine what's going on inside that cockpit right now, but I bet he is less than impressed, doing everything he can to get past Glenn Van Berlo, but Van Berlo marshalling him well still, with Benji Ites in front. Here's the getaway here at the start. There you can see at the front there, Carol Bash got away well, so did Axel Jeffries. But how about this in behind, Alan Valente with the two Oregon cars. Valente actually did get his nose in front. There you can see that Van Berlo is still in the fray as we ride on board with Benji Ites, who makes his way down the stretch, of course. And as they made their way down in towards turn one, you can see the breakages coming in, leading the way. Bash there, he was stuck in behind the Kessel car of Axel Jeffries. Then in came Adam Christodoulou. There is Alan Valente alongside that Team Oregon. Side by side they went down through towards turn one. Could he make the move? No, the inside for Glenn Van Berlo, and he managed to defend against the probing Team GT car very well indeed, and makes him live to fight another day. And there you can see the Team Landgraf car with Janine Shafner trying to scrap with him too. Eventually the Team Landgraf car going out in front, which I'm sure Martin Conrad would have been delighted with.
Yeah, so that was a move for 11th place overall. And there's a replay of Omar Jackson getting tagged by Chahadaroglu. And that's as yet not been decided. It's still just listed as under investigation. As soon as we know anything about that, we will of course share it with you. We're just about at a quarter distance in this race. The pit window opens with 24 minutes of racing in the books. Therefore, with 36 minutes to go, you will see the pit window open. And when the pit window does open, I would expect that these three drivers in shot at the moment, Carol Bash, Axel Jeffries and Christodoulou, much like we saw from David Fumanelli yesterday, they will stay out as long as possible to optimise the chance of a victory for the car. That is usually the dynamic with Pro-Am teams. The Am drivers, yes, they want their track time, but they also want their trophies. And some of them, and a lot of them, I should say, are more than happy to take a little bit of a bite of their own egos to stay out of the car a little longer and let the employed pro driver do the job for them a bit.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that, certainly. And it's a case of managing the race, as everything is. There you can see Carol Bash up ahead there with Axel. Oh, getting so close into Gancho corner. Now, incidentally, on the previous lap, Axel Jeffries was 4/10 quicker than that of Carol Bash in the last sector. So I think he likes it. As you know, see Axel Jeffries making his way through. Didn't like it much in qualifying when the car didn't want to play ball, but as they now round the final corner at the Parabolica Ayrton Senna, there's Alan Valente again, this time on Glenn Van Berlo. Not in turn one this time, but heading around the final corner. Here's the battle for the lead now, as you can see Axel Jeffries every chance here to go on top. Here's Carol Bash though, trying to break the slipstream. No move can be made here from Axel Jeffries, and he stays in P2. So good effort, nevertheless though, Carol Bash on top.
Interesting to see though when we're on board with Axel Jeffries, his first gear all the way through Gancho, as is typical for most of these drivers, shifted up through second very quickly and actually took the S's turn 12 in third gear. the last thing you want is a torque spike when you're going over the curbs there at T12. So just stabilising the car by being in a higher gear. It looked for a moment like he might have an opportunity on Karol Bash going into turn 4, but it didn't materialise. He flashes the headlights as they run towards the Parabolica interior turn 6. Moves can be made, but not from that range at T6, unless he can get a good run. And here comes the 33. Alan Valente, he's taken out Van Berlo. Van Berlo tagged there by Valente. And they'd already fallen down the order according to the timing screen, so something's gone on there between the two of them. I think that might have actually been a replay that we saw in real-time speed. Nick Moss has got past Valente, so the order now is Hites there in 4th place. Seb Bauder's benefited from that massively in the 911 Mercedes. He's up to 5th. Koznovsky in 6th place, Van Berlo in 7th, and Valente in 8th. So they've both fallen down the order, but critically they both continued on. Here comes Dexter Muller continuing his sparring, now with Janine Shafner, original sparring partner Omar Jackson in the pit lane. So he's found someone new to play with, and he's having a good fight with Janine. He said earlier on he's been a bit of a pain in the neck of Janine so far this weekend. He was saying to me, I'm probably going to have to go and have a chat to her and say sorry before race 2. Well, here he comes again in the rear view mirrors. And here's a look at Valente. He got up the inside a lap ago at the Gancho chicane, had a go at Van Berlo, and then they were side by side again at turn 2 a few corners later. And Valente, really, I don't think the nose of that Mercedes should have been where it was.
No, not at all. I just think maybe it was a little bit too much. Oh, I tell you what, how about that in behind as well? The Get Speed car coming through, of course, belonging to Sebastian Bau. He got away very fortunately. There's Janine Shafner and Dexter Muller going side by side, but this time Janine, I think, at this time, managing to hold on, keeping that SPS Performance Mercedes at bay. There we can see a 5-second penalty going to car 133. That's Murat Çağrıoğlu, and that was for the incident with Omar Jackson heading around turn 1. So, yeah, something did come of it, Adam.
Yes, had a feeling that there would be some kind of consequence for that. Said Çağrıoğlu, and will have a 5-second penalty hanging over the head of himself and David Fumanelli. The top 3, though, still very close together. Chris Dudulu's always there or thereabouts, while Axel Jeffries is doing most of the attacking of Karol Bash. 20 minutes complete in this race so far. I don't think Axel Jeffries has been a second behind Bash at any point in the race so far. It's been very close between the two of them. The Olymp Racing Audi R8 versus the Ferrari 488 GT3 car from the Kessel Racing camp. Kessel Racing with so much history with Ferrari, and they instill loyalty in their gentleman drivers as well. Stephen Earle has been racing with them for well over a decade at this point. Of course, Stephen not with us today, but we hope he's doing okay. He was uninjured but a bit sore following his collision yesterday up here at turn 4. He will no doubt, though, be willing on his garage mate Axel Jeffries as he continues to hound the back of Karol Bash. The big 3.9-litre V8 powered Ferrari looming large. Of course, we know we're likely to see a new Ferrari in GTOpen next year, the 296 GT3. I'm sure Kessel will bring some of those to the party in 2023. But for now, the 488 is still a highly effective weapon up against the newly updated R8. They put an update package out for that during the off-season, and that is what we have on the circuit here in the lead, the R8 LMS Evo 2. And Karol Bash, well, he certainly knows how to use a particularly sharp weapon very handily.
Yeah, he certainly does indeed. Karol Bash on top with Axel Jeffries still probing, and I have to say the gap still coming down. But what about Chris Dudulu, who is now only 6/10 away from Axel Jeffries as they make their way through the next left-hander now? You can see them just in tandem, nose to tail, the gap thinner than a fly's eyelash. It's still Karol Bash on top with Axel Jeffries in behind. Look how close he is as they make their way around the Parabolica Ayrton Senna, past the pit lane. This time, he might have a chance. Axel Jeffries down the straight, as the Audi just got by a little bit too much as they come in towards turn 1. The view from the garage, there's Rima Jafali there watching Adam Christodoulou try and catch up in 3rd place too. There's literally 3 cars now, all separated by mere fragments of a second. This is getting tasty, Adam.
And there's traffic incoming, I believe. They're catching up to Laurent Demirs in the number 55 AM entry, and lap traffic, even if they do their very best to stay out of the way, can sometimes cause harm to one of the parties in a lead battle. Let's see if that happens on this occasion. Karol Bash closing in on the 55. AF Corsa Ferrari. Axel Jeffries in the Kessel Racing Ferrari. Just still under the rear wing of the Audi. Again, flashing the headlights into T6. He's eager to use that particular button on the car. Electrical issues notwithstanding, and he's right up in the wheel tracks. Let's see what happens though when they close in on this AM traffic. Now Carol Bash is also flashing the headlights. He's got a car ahead of him for the first time in this race, and he is going to be very tense. He will have watched the replay. He'll have seen Nick Moss struggling in the traffic yesterday in the overall lead battle, and he's now going to be hoping the same fate doesn't befall him as they go through the S's and the Parabolica Ayrton Senna.
Yeah, absolutely. There we can see them still. All three cars. There's the AF Corsa, just causing a little bit, maybe a bit of a hiccup here, a bit of a hindrance that could offer Axel Jeffries maybe an opportunity as they now head around turn 13 at the Parabolica Ayrton Senna. Oh, here we go, side by side. It's the Kessel car of Axel Jeffries, makes it side by side through now with Carol Bash, heading past the pit lane. He's got a nose in front. He has the inside line in towards turn 1. Christodoulou gets past the car in behind 2, but Axel Jeffries, he's taking it. P1 now, here in the initial stint. Here comes the Audi again now. Carol Bash far from done, but he's going to have to succumb to second place, as now you see Christodoulou 3 wide now, in towards the next ride. Christodoulou has a chance. Here comes the Mercedes. It's literally relentless right now. Carol Bash now, trying to get back in the P1. He's done it. He's done it with Christodoulou in the fray as well, Adam.
Amazing driving from Carol Bash to reclaim that lead. Axel Jeffries, to his credit, did just enough to give him space. Here comes Christodoulou though. Axel Jeffries has gone from the attacker to the defender, and Christodoulou's trying to find a way through at turn 6. It won't happen. You saw what happened there coming out of the last corner, the Parabolica Ayrton Senna. Carol Bash had to give it a wider berth because of the lap traffic. He then had to tap the brake pedal coming out of the Parabolica Ayrton Senna. That's what gave Axel Jeffries the run. That's what briefly gave Axel Jeffries the lead, but Carol Bash responded immediately, and there goes Christodoulou. It was always going to be a rough move up the inside from there. Jeffries did give him room just in case, and that may have actually given Christodoulou the opportunity. They're almost side by side, going through the S's, bouncing over the curbs. The driver change window is now open. I'd be very surprised if we saw any of the first 3 cars in just yet, but we'll keep an eye on that one. Indeed, none of them go past on this occasion. Christodoulou, he opened the door a bit at Gancho. That gave a bit of a problem to Axel Jeffries, who then had a poor run through that chicane. Christodoulou couldn't quite capitalise, however.
What a battle, Adam. What a battle. That is what we like. Benjamin Heates, though, in 4th place currently. You can see there's Sebastian Boe as well. In the pits now, Heates. Heates in the pit lane, and Sebastian Boe will probably move past him as well, as we can now see still this battle continuing between Christodoulou and further up as well, Axel Jeffries. There is Rima Jafali, helmet already on. Does this mean that this is going to be a bold in-lap coming in from Adam Christodoulou, potentially on the cards? I can't see any reason why not.
We'll have to wait and see. I thought they might keep Adam out for a few more laps, but if he feels he's being held up by Axel Jeffries, then maybe so. We'll have to wait and see what's happening. Of course, they do have a 10-second penalty to contend with as well for winning the Pro-Am yesterday. Not a penalty as such, but 10 seconds extra on their pit stop. Joe Osborne will be taking over from Nick Moss. Moss in at the first opportunity to hand over to Joe Osborne, who was getting some sighting laps in on a scooter last night. A bit faster material he's about to get behind the wheel of today. And here comes Jeffries and Christodoulou once again through Gancho. Janine Shafner in to hand over to Moritz Kranz as well in the number 9 car. There you see the handicap, quite a useful graphic to have there as well. You get the baseline pit stops, all the penalties as they apply. 65 seconds is the base pit stop time that they must adhere to. The top 3 across the line. No signs of a pit stop yet for Christodoulou. He continues to try and home in on Axel Jeffries as Chad Aroglu comes into the pits to hand over to Dav Fumanelli.
Yeah, Christodoulou 6/10 back still on Axel Jeffries, who's currently still nursing that P2 spot, licking his wounds after the scrap between him and Carol Bash. What an incredible moment to watch, folks, for the Audi doing enough to stay on top. And in fact, Bash has probably been blessed with this battle between Christodoulou and Jeffries, because it's taken the pressure off him just a little bit for now, because that Kessel Racing car has now drifted further back from the rear. Oh, okay, 10-second penalty causing a collision to car number 33. and that being Alan Valente. So that was the incident we saw earlier on. That was between Glenn Van Berlo in his Team Oregon car as well, Adam.
Yes, it looks like these penalties are being added at the end of the race rather than during the pit stop or as a drive-through. So I have to bear that in mind come the closing of this race. You see there, Carol Bash flashing the headlights at Leonardo Pulcini, who's ahead of him. Leonardo Pulcini, who of course has pitted that car from a stop. In fact, no, Pulcini's over here at turn 6, so actually that's Glenn Van Berlo in the 19 car then, I suppose. So nonetheless, here comes Moss, Joe Osborne. I'm getting all confused with the pit window and the driver cycles. The top 3 though, we expect it to be the same cast of drivers for at least a couple more laps. Does Christodoulou peel in? We saw that Rima Jafali was all primed and ready to go, but not yet. The top 3 remain out there on circuit.
Certainly do. Christodoulou remaining out as well, still trying to gain on the Kessel Racing car of Axel Jeffries, who seems to have composed himself a little now. The gap has been maintained. He's currently in behind Carol Bash by around 7/10, so he's managed to gain a little bit as well on the Audi. So there has been some progress there. Further back, you can see there that Bauer is also in 4th, with Korzanowski in 5th too. Glenn Van Berlo still letting fly. Alan Valente still out on track, but he, of course, will be nursing a 10-second penalty that will be added to his time, as you so rightly said, Adam, at the end of the race. So we'll have to wait and see how that becomes fortuitous for him. We'll have to wait and see, or unfortuitous as it probably will end up being. Osaka in 8th place too. Pulcini is now in the car for Team Oregon, and he'll be looking to push as well with Osborne in the McLaren.
Yes, so I did get a bit confused with the Oregon team cars. We did see a replay of Pulcini at turn 5, turn 6, but that is him just ahead of Carol Bash out there on circuit. Of course, Pulcini more than able to match the pace of the top 3, and so Carol Bash has this rather bright Lamborghini up ahead of him, but isn't going to close in anytime soon. Who has closed in is Axel Jeffries. Axel Jeffries a bit closer to the back of Carol Bash, that time through Ganshow. Gets the car sliding as well, coming out of Ganshow. Traction control on these GT3 cars, of course, but that doesn't mean you can't get the tail out here and there. Axel Jeffries looks like he might be primed for a good run out of the final corner, although he may have had to lift out the throttle slightly there to make sure he didn't exceed track limits, and I think that may be the case, because look at that, the Audi just building a car length or 2 as they run down the main straight into turn 1. The top 3 turn through our first corner for what is the 19th time in this race. We're approaching halfway through the pit window. The pit window will close with 24 minutes of this race left to go.
Certainly will, and there is the Audi still. There's Christodoulou, still there, still probing. And there is the Get Speed Performance 911 car. Steve Jans will no doubt be hopping into the car now, replacing Sebastian Bau. And very shortly they'll leave the pit lane. As you can see, very quick driver change process. You can see them rapidly undoing the straps. In comes the Olymp car as well, that being Laurent de Meus, Stanislav Jedlinski coming in for Christian Korzanowski into that 5 car. And they'll soon be making their way back out on the jacks. New tyres on the car. And there's the Team Oregon team as well, who hasn't actually let any cars through. They're still out on track with the Audi in behind them. So still a little bit of congestion on the circuit there, Adam.
Not really congestion. Pulcini's actually a little bit further ahead of Bash than he was this time a lap ago. It's just more a matter of a very, very quick car just happening to come out of the pits just in front of the leaders. And I don't think the blue flags will be particularly waving for him, because he is extending that advantage on the track, at least, over Bash. Bash, the leader of this race, though, and Axel Jeffries still lurks and looms large. What have we got here? Oh, that's a Ferrari undressing itself. David Fumanelli losing a light, actually, as they ran down towards turn 1. So the 133 car's already got a 5-second penalty to its name. It's also now down a headlight, and that bonnet does not look even remotely like it's going to stay on put on the car for the next 29 minutes. I do worry that they might get a black and orange flag, the meatball flag, the technical flag, whatever you want to call it. It's the flag that says, no, we'd rather you repair your car, actually, I'm afraid. And the 133 may well be liable to that. It's certainly coming apart quite literally at the seams.
Not ideal for the aero either, Adam, has to be said.
True.
It may hold you up a little bit, but hopefully won't cause too much trouble, fingers crossed. But there is Carol Bash Bash still holding his own out in front. Axel Jeffries not far behind, within half a second. And Christodoulou 9/10 back. If we look further down, there's still cars still yet to box, though Joe Osborne is now trying to gain on Steve Jans. Christodoulou with a flash there, as you can see, of the lights, just letting Jeffries know that he is still once again there. Carol Bash still leading this contingent around, leading the overall classifications as well. And we do have a black and orange flag for car 133 belonging to David Fuminelli, and that, I would imagine, is due to the light flying out the front and the bonnet being loose as well, Adam.
Yes, I think they may have, no, they definitely didn't listen to me on the matter, but clearly we're in sync, at least on that thought. That bonnet does look like it could come up at any given moment, so it's in the best interest of everybody, including David Fuminelli, to get the car in. Does anyone come in from the top three this time? The answer is no. You see there just in the back of shot as well, the 911 car, Steve Jans. That's not the car in fourth, that's the car in 8th position at the moment. He's actually behind Leonardo Polcini, who is in 7th overall at this stage. So still very shuffled, of course. It's a relatively short circuit here at Estoril, and it's a relatively long pit stop. And that does mean we have this interesting situation where people come out from their stops around the leaders. Now, the leaders are going to have to make their pit stops at some point relatively shortly. If they don't hit this time, I'm fairly sure they would have to, mathematically, stop next time. They're going to have to be very careful not to exceed that pit window. They have to be into the pits before the 24-minute mark in the race. Glenn Van Berlo has taken that to heart, as he will hand over to Kevin Gilardoni.
Yeah, Kevin Gilardoni now coming into the car, replacing Glenn Van Berlo. As you can see, car now up on the jack, tyres being replaced. The Michelin tyres now being replaced there. You can see there is the Thema Motorsports one and only Adam Christodoulou. Way out onto the track. There's the other Get Speed Performance car, Kiki Saknana, hoping for a better run this time. Obviously, he was caught up in all the chaos of yesterday's crash incident, heading around turn 4 in towards turn 5. But as we now rejoin the battle with the leaders, Carol Bash still nursing a 0.2 of a second advantage over Axel Jeffries. Now the clock is ticking down. I'd estimate at least a lap, but they've got a box.
Yeah, it's this time or next time or a penalty, effectively. I don't think any of them have come in. Ah, no, never mind. Carol Bash is in. Our race leader is the first of the three to bite the bullet. And the 777 Audi rolls down to pit lane. It will become the property of Marcin Jedlinski, who will take the car over. He's a fairly strong am. I'm interested to see how he performs in this second phase of the race, up against not just his fellow Pro-Ams, but of course the charging pro drivers. Incidentally worth noting as well, as we see the other car, Stanislav Jedlinski, that's Marcin's dad having a moment, but Stanislav Jedlinski with a spin. I think he's got that car recovered, thankfully. However, to speak on Marcin again for just a moment, because that car came third in Pro-Am yesterday, no penalty for that car added to the stop. The number 73 that now leads, Axel Jeffries, that's going to have to stop for 5 seconds longer. Christodoulou has to stop for 10 seconds longer. Polcini, as yesterday's winner in Pro, also had to stop for 10 seconds longer than the standard 65-second hold. So there is going to be a lot of cards falling all at once, and I think quite a few of them will fall for Marcin Jedlinski.
Yeah, and it's going to be a very complex order indeed, because obviously all things have changed. What we thought was rudimentary is no longer. Jeffrey's still on top. Christodoulou is there too. There's the Audi making its way back out onto the track. The blinker is on. You can see it there on the left-hand side, as now the Olymp car makes its way out, no doubt done this time by that man, Marcin Jedlinski. Big challenge for him now. There you can see the cars peeling into the pit lane. Christodoulou and Axel Jeffries. Jeffries leading him in as they make their way through. Who's going to be fastest at the pit stop? I suppose that's the big question, Adam.
It is, yes. You'd suspect that it would be Axel Jeffries, because that car has 5 seconds less to serve in the pits. Roman Zemian, of course, will take the car over. You see there the handicap, 70 seconds for that car. And then I'm sure we'll see the same graphic as well for this Thema Motorsport crew. There it is, 75 seconds for them. So, all being well with everyone's stopwatches, it should be the Kessel Racing car that comes out ahead of the Christodoulou and Jafali entry, the Thema Motorsport car. There you see Marcin Jedlinski still with the indicator on. I think that's not with any purpose. Maybe just knocked his knee on it on the way into the car. Does happen. Jamie Stanley just ahead of him. You see that the bulletin there that the driver changes have finished the pit window has now closed. Those drivers from the head of the order came in at practically the last possible opportunity. We'll see, of course, how Jedlinski compares to Jafali and Jafali and Zimian after the stop. He's just coming around turns 12 and 13 now, and no doubt it's going to be quite close. In fact, I think the dice may have fallen to Roman Zimian, because look at him, he's already coming down the pit exit. Now they have to hold their limiter in for quite a while down here in towards turn 1. Where is the Audi? It's going to be a ways back, I think. Yes, the Audi in third position there, Jedlinski. I can't imagine that that was a particularly clean pit stop for the Olymp Racing crew, because in theory they should have been the fastest pit stop, but in practice they've ended up a ways behind the 2 cars they were previously ahead of.
Yeah, and he's also stuck in behind the car in 13th overall, which is Jamie Stanley as well, so he's got to try and get past one of the back markers, should we say, at this point. So he's got to try and get past and then find his way through and then catch up with Rima Jafali and Roman Zimian as well. So Zimian leads in the Pro-Am category, Rima Jafali in second. It's Pro-Ams across the top 3 in the overall standings. Leonardo Polcini all the way back in 4th, with Kevin Gillardoni as well. That's the 2 Oregon cars in overall 4th and 5th, though, leading the pro category, though I'm sure that's negated by the overall standings at this point in time. As you can see further down, Joe Osborne in 7th, with Bernard Laber in 8th, Kiki Sagnana in 9th overall as well, with Martin Conrad currently nursing a P10 spot, with Yannick Mettler trying to push, with Moritz Krantz in who was driving that car was, of course, his teammate Janine Shafner, as we're now watching Rima Jafali make her way through. There is the man himself, that is Marcin Jedlinski, starting to get closer and closer. There you see the AF Corsa car getting closer, in fact, to Rima Jafali, so we're going to have a little bit of a complicated scrap here now, Adam.
Warning for track limits for the car in 4th place. That's Leonardo Polcini, who will be hunting these AM drivers in the Pro-Am cars throughout the latter part of this race in an attempt to claim the overall victory. He leads the Pro class, but the car in the very back of shot, Leonardo Polcini, is going to be on the hunt for overall victory here. Turning into turn 1 is Marcin Jedlinski, who will be bitterly disappointed to see that the car that was in the lead is now down to 3rd place. Jamie Stanley, the very well-decorated driver on the British GT racing scene. You'd expect him to be quicker than the cars around him in this number 55 AF Corsa Ferrari, the blue, red and white car that you see playing the spoiler, sitting in 13th overall. He could well have a factor to play in this race as well, because really he shouldn't be trying to unlap himself. But if you are that much quicker, there's nothing strictly stopping you. He will be very conscious of the fact that he doesn't want to ruin anyone else's race, but he also doesn't want to have to sit around behind cars that are slower than him all stint long. Here's a bit of a Mercedes AMG GT3 single make series, as Kiki Sagnana has to try and hold off Yannick Mettler. Mettler, though, up the inside and makes a position, and then a switch for the AM lead, because here comes Martin Conrad. Martin Conrad gets past Kiki Sagnana, and the car from the Get Speed stable falls behind the Team Landgraf Mercedes, the Mann-Filter Mamba, up to 10th overall, and the AM lead. Kiki Sagnana down to 2nd place. Adam Osaka had a really good stint at the beginning of this race in that 786 Mercedes AMG, but Kiki will not give up on this, I'm sure of it. And there you see, he's still there with Martin Conrad. Kiki, who has plenty of experience in GT racing. He gained most of his notoriety as a drifter initially in homeland Thailand, and then all throughout the world. He also did some GT3 driving in Thailand, and Rima Jafali. Oh, goodness me, that looked a bit scary. A bit of a handful of opposite lock coming out of turn 1. Of course, Rima not under legitimate pressure from the car behind Jamie Stanley, but she will no doubt be watching the mirrors, because Jamie has been closing in. And of course, there's a small matter of Marcin Jedlinski there in 3rd place. She'll also want to try and close in on Roman Zimian ahead. She was a couple of tenths quicker than Zimian on that last lap, but she's going to have to make some swift progress to try and attack the Polish driver.
Well, I have to say, my eyes are also set on Leonardo Polcini, because he, of course, now started to knock on the wood, started to snap at the tree there of Marcin Jedlinski's car. The deficit is coming down by near enough 2/10 to 3/10 a sector. So he's starting to really hammer out some serious lap times here. Do not write off Team Oregon. They are still in this fight. They've got a long way to go though, but there's still plenty of time in this race. 18.5 minutes remain. There's Rima Jafali with him behind Jamie Stanley, of course, in 13th place. Currently fighting the amp fight. Here's a replay of that little moment that Rima Jafali had around turn 1, just rode on the curve a little bit. Oh, do you know what? She was so lucky not to land in the gravel trap. She just kept it out, did very well to keep the traction, and she was able then to send it down towards turn 2.
Yep, thankfully quite a bit of runoff there at turn 1. Helped Rima out substantially. Leonardo Polcini in the 63 car in 4th position, and hunting. As a rule, you'd expect the pro drivers and the pro cars to be the strongest across the race. That is what we're seeing as Polcini continues to close in on the cars ahead. The question is, once he's caught them up, will he be able to pass? That's going to be the storyline in this one. He's well clear in the pro class. He's 7.7 seconds clear of Kevin Ghilardoni in the number 19, the sister Oregon car. He will be fine with getting the pro win, I'm sure, but the primary point of fixation in his eye line is the cars ahead, and Marcin Jedlinski is the first of them, who he's closing in on at a rate of knots. And interestingly, both Jafali and Jedlinski now look to be closing in on Zemian. The gap between Zemian, our race leader in the 73 car that was formerly driven by Axel Jeffries, and Rima Jafali in second, was down to 2.7 at the last split. We'll see what the split looks like at sector 2, but we know that Polcini is closing. The question is, who will be leading at the end of this race? That's always the question in a motor race, of course, but it's going to be very, very tricky to call, because you kind of have almost like a handicap race, as it's called in the UK national racing scene, where you've got some of the slightly less pacey cars and drivers out front at the moment, and some others coming up hot and doing the hunting. It's going to make for some very interesting racing, I have no doubt. Polcini closing in on Jedlinski, and you just get the feeling it's a matter of time on this one, don't you?
Oh, certainly. You can see him getting closer and closer. There we see a battle going on indeed between Joe Osborne, and you can see there's a bit of a switcheroo there. You can see that indeed that Kevin Ghilardoni, currently sat in 5th place, needs to find his way through, but just look at this, rounding down towards turn 1. The man there is, by the looks of it, there's Joe Osborne. Yeah, we can see there has been identified as P5, Kevin Ghilardoni in P6 now. Steve Jans in 7th, Bernard Laber in 8th, Yannick Mettler 9th, Martin Conrad in 10th, and there you can see the McLaren GT3 of Joe Osborne there with what looks to be Ghilardoni in 6th, following on in behind. The gap between the pair currently sits at 7.5 tenths of a second. So the gap's starting to draw outwards, and here comes the fight now, this time between Marcin Jedlinski and Leonardo Polcini, who now moves ahead and takes that 3rd place. And I have to say, his pace is looking absolutely devastating right now. He's going to be sending it towards Rima Jafali.
I think you've probably picked the right word there. He's looking very pacey. Polcini up into 3rd position. Joe Osborne then, as we saw, up into 5th place. Now, he was still 6th at the end of sector 2, so I suspect that might have been done at Ganshow in the McLaren 720S. Do not rule him out for an overall podium. He's about 9 seconds behind Jedlinski, we believe, at the moment. He can make that up in 15 minutes, certainly. Of course, overtaking could be another task, but Polcini is up to 3rd. Here's how it happened. Just got so much more speed out of turn 4, curve of VIP, and it was all just in the numbers at that point. Actually running a bit wide was Jedlinski, and that opened the door for Polcini. He didn't need to be asked twice on that occasion. Here's our leader then, Roman Zemian. The gap has gone down significantly between himself and Rima Jafali. It's 1.1 seconds at the moment, and Jafali could well be challenging for the lead before too long. And of course, if she does catch and they start fighting, that's only going to help Polcini all the more, although with that scintillating pace that we're seeing out of the number 63, he might not need them to hold each other up. Here is a battle between Moritz Kranz and Kiki Saknana. Of course, this is not for class position, it's for overall position. It's 11th overall. Kiki Saknana, who's lost time to Martin Conrad now. Looks like Conrad is well clear at the moment in the AM classification. Saknana is 2nd in AM, sorry, and this is the Pro-Am car of Moritz Kranz, who's just outside the top 10 and all the way down in 6th at the moment in Pro-Am. Moritz will be trying his hardest to move the car up the order for both he and Janine Shafner and the Get Speed Performance crew. And of course it is an all Get Speed battle, because Kiki Saknana, also of Get Speed Performance, he's a little bit less brave on the brakes. Moritz Kranz dives up the inside. Kiki very conscious of the car alongside. Position made quite easily. Moritz Kranz, I'm sure, will thank him for that in the garage later.
Splendid move indeed by Moritz Kranz, moving himself up into 11th place. Kiki Saknana now down into 12th overall, but still second in the AM category. There is Kranz. There's Kiki making his way through the next left, and certainly holding his own still. There's the replay, and you can see it from our broadcast camera view. In comes the Get Speed, round through the next right. Of course, both representing Get Speed Performance, but at this time it was the turn of Moritz Kranz, the Pro-Am driver, getting ahead of the AM applicant. So we're now watching the lights being flashed by Rima Jafali as she now begins to roam up on Roman Zemian in first place. Leonardo Polcini starting to get closer and closer. 2.5 seconds is only what separates them. It's minimal at this stage, and he's managed to get ahead of the AF courser of Jamie Stanley as well. So that's the car back in overall 13th place dispatched of. So now all he has to worry about is Rima Jafali, who's ahead of him here, and also Roman Zemian. We're going to have a three-way fight for this lead with only 12.5 minutes remaining. Beautiful stuff.
Great racing to this point, and I do suspect we've got a few more battles coming. Rima Jafali will want to get past Zemian as quickly as she possibly can. If she can get through and Zemian can do a good job of defending Pulcini, then an overall win could be on the cards. I'm sure her primary focus will be a second consecutive Pro-Am win in as many days for herself and Adam Christodoulou and Thiva Motorsport. Rima, the first ever Saudi Arabian woman to hold a racing license. She's done plenty of things in her career since she's become a racing driver, and great to have her in International GTOpen along with Adam Christodoulou. It's a very strong Pro-Am lineup, and can she get a strong run out of the Parabolica Ayrton Senna as they now come onto the main straight? Zemian will be watching the rear view, the big 6.2 litre Mercedes, the big front engine V8. Proper GT car that is, but not close enough heading into turn 1 on this occasion.
Yeah, not this time. Rima Jafali having to be a little patient. She's sitting in behind Roman Zemian. Probably not the worst move to make, though, sitting in behind and just wait for your opportunity to strike. And certainly I'm sure it will. If she keeps going the way she's going, the Roman Zemian, a very, very good, strong character. I'm sure we'll be seeing plenty of action between the pair. But what about Leonardo Polcini as well in behind? 1.1 seconds, the gap between them. Marcin Jedlinski dropping off to 6.3 behind Leonardo Polcini, with Joe Osborne on a stride as well. He'll very soon be on the rear of Jedlinski, only 1.6 away too. So we've got battles all across this grid order, and it's absolutely spectacular to see. We've got a Pro-Am in P1 overall, with a Pro-Am in P2, a Pro in P3, with then Marcin Jedlinski in 4th, also representing the Pro-Am category. As we're now watching Roman Zemian now make his way down through towards this next right-hand of the swinging section at turn 7. As you can see him just ahead there, and there's Rima as well. But look at Leonardo Polcini as we ride on board with him. He is so on the toe here of Rima Jafali as they now rise up through turns 9 and 10, heading out of Gancho corner. The engines scream as they head round the next right-hander, now in towards the next left at turn 11, rounding towards turn 13 very shortly. The Parabolica Ayrton Senna as they now come through the last corner. You can see the Team Oregon car urging closer and closer and closer. It's a call, it's a three-way fight between Polcini, Jafali, Zemian, who's leading, but he's got an advantage. But look at Polcini, the pace on that Lamborghini is being sent down towards turn 1. It could be a question of who's braver on the brakes. Polcini decides against it, though I'm sure he will fight later on in the lap.
Oh yes, I think there's something of a golden opportunity now for Leonardo Polcini. I wasn't sure whether he'd close in time, but now that he's on the back of the Mercedes with 9.5 minutes to go, oh, you do think that all the smart money would go towards the 63 car. Jafali leaves the door slightly open, but there's not a Lamborghini's width. Polcini recognizing that and not trying anything too audacious as yet. There's still plenty of time. He'll be telling himself that. Jafali with a good run out of Curva VIP, covers off any move for turn 6, certainly, from Polcini. Zemian in the lead, though, and That number 73 car, Axel Jeffries, will be willing him on. Adam Christodoulou will be willing on Rima Jafali. And Benjamin Hites will be willing on Leonardo Polcini. And Polcini with a great move. He got the run out of Marella, but not quite able to draw alongside enough. Rima Jafali, absolutely stern stuff from Rima. She just shuts the door in Polcini's face and says, by no means is it going to be this easy.
Not at all. She was so strong heading up through into the chicane, and Gancho said no. She said no to Polcini. No chance as they head around turn 13. The parabolic Ayrton Senna in front still. It's Zamian who is holding his own in the lead. How long for though? Because Jafali and Polcini are starting to close. Polcini looking like the aggressor right now. The Lamborghini with 8 minutes just to go as they headed towards turn 1. Is it going to be a dive at the inside? No, not this time. Jafali able to hold on to second place overall, as well as Zamian, who leads this contingent around. Jamie Stanley has got the best view of the house. He's watching them all fight up ahead of him here at this point, but still Zamian on top. Jafali in second, still holding that 0.3 of a second gap. You've got to praise Jafali at this point for still staying in touch with Zamian despite the aggression from Polcini, who has a look down the inside now, heading around turn 4, but still Jafali, defiance in that Mercedes.
Rima Jafali is putting on a defensive masterclass here up against Leonardo Polcini. Leonardo Polcini, a driver who turned heads in the Formula One paddock with some significant single-seater racing success. He's now trying to get a factory GT3 drive. That's his long-term goal. He's racing here for Oregon team in the Pro class, but Rima Jafali is meeting him every inch of the way in this defensive drive. They run towards Gancho chicane. Once again, we're on lap 32 of the race. We've got just over 7 minutes remaining. Keep an eye on Joe Osborne as well. If these three keep fighting, Osborne could be there in a flash. He's a couple of seconds a lap quicker right now, and he's only 4.4 seconds back from Leonardo Polcini. This could be a 4-car scrap, not just for the overall lead, but the Pro-Am top 2 and the Pro Class top 2. It's stellar motor racing that we have here. Roman Zamian doing a fabulous job in the lead. He's got a little bit of a toe from a back marker ahead, but critically, there's a back marker ahead. Could that be a spoiler? The Polcini car to the inside. Jafali not going to be able to chop the nose off the Lambo this time. It is a move for second place from Polcini. He gets through, and now Zamian is the next target, and he makes the audacious lunge to lap the other car, and Jafali off circuit. Polcini up the inside. Quite the skid from Polcini. He went full opposite lock, and he's into the lead. Zamian down to second place. Osborne up to third, and Jafali there off track in all of that. What a hectic sequence. What fabulous motor racing here at Estoril.
It got tense. It got so tense heading around sector 1, but I can't help but feel sorry for Rima Jafali after that stern defensive effort in behind. There you can see Joe Osborne now going down the inside of Roman Zamian as well as they now round the next left. You can also see Jamie Stanley ahead, who's surely not going to be in the way, going to let him through indeed. And now Joe Osborne can focus his attentions on what will be Leonardo Polcini ahead as well. As you can see, there's the McLaren making its way through, marching in that blazing orange, up through now towards turns 9 and 10. As you can see the replay, this was the moment where Leonardo Polcini gave up waiting. He had a look at turn 1 on many an occasion, this time making it work on the inside. And this was the moment we had a 4-car affair. Jafali off in the gravel trap. Leonardo Polcini down the inside of Zamian, heading around that next right. There's Jafali making her way off the circuit. A heartbreaking moment, I'm sure, but she did not deserve that, Adam.
No, it was just unfortunate timing, really. Jedlinski was just slowing down there, trying to let everybody through. She wasn't really sure which way to go, left or right, and unfortunately she picked the wrong side. Ultimately, that sent her off into the gravel trap. I think really that's a racing incident, just an incredibly unfortunate one at that. And in all the hustle and bustle, Leonardo Polcini went through into the lead. And look at this. I was hoping we'd see that a bit longer, because I think there was a dab of Oppo there, to say the least of it, as they went into turn 3. Omar Jackson and Charlie Hollings we saw there relegated to interested spectators. But thankfully, boys, we've got quite a good race. Joe Osborne is homing in now on Leonardo Polcini, 2 seconds quicker in the first sector alone. Now it's going to be quite a task for him to catch Polcini and pass him in 4 minutes and 10 seconds. But Joe Osborne, I've seen him drive like a man possessed before. I know he's capable. Let's see if he can put in a showstopper in the dying moments here in the second race of the season in the International GTOpen. Here's Marcin Jedlinski. This is for 5th overall. Kevin Gilardoni looking likely behind. Of course, this is the car running 3rd in Pro, but they'd love to be in the overall top 5 as well. And all that was made relatively easy. Jedlinski practically opened the door and bowed on his way past. The number 19 car up into 5th place. Good job from Kevin Gilardoni.
Yeah, I think he caught him napping around turn 7, really. Just found the inside line and sent it, literally, and did very well indeed. There's Joe Osborne starting to gain on Polcini, who's been leading all the way. The gap has shrunk by 0.3 of a second. This is not over yet, folks. Joe Osborne is on a mission as they head down towards turn 1. And I've got to say, Joe Osborne, now he can see sight of that Oregon car. He's going to be intent on closing the gap. Polcini is going to be very wary of what's going on in his mirrors. That McLaren is going full send. The gap now stagnates at 1.8. It's coming down still, though. If you think about it, it was 2 seconds. It's at least 2/10 that it's come in by. Joe Osborne is making moves. It's now down to 1.7. He's set a fastest purple sector 1. Osborne is on a flyer, Adam.
Yep, he's very much trying his best. He's a realist. He knows he's going to have an outside shot here. It's touch and go also whether we're going to get 1 or 2 more laps at the end of this one. I think it will just about be 2 more laps. And with that being the case, then Osborne does have a much better chance indeed. But as we said, and as everyone says, passing and catching, 2 very different things. Even if Osborne can close in on the Lamborghini, it's going to be hard going. Let's see. Optimum Motorsport are certainly willing him on every inch of the way. The gap's come down another couple of tenths in that middle sector. Osborne is cooking on gas, but he was a bit slow there, I think, through Gancho, just bouncing on the curbs, took a bit too much curb, and that may lose him a few hundredths. A few hundredths, you say? Very pedantic of you. Yes, but it all counts here in the closing stages. It will be 2 more laps. We have 1 minute and 55 left on the clock. Joe Osborne has about 5.2 miles, about 8.4 kilometers to try and close in.
Yeah, and Rima Jafali now also within 0.8 of a second near enough. She's trying to get the slipstream off the AF Corsa car ahead, of course being driven by Jamie Stanley. She's trying to gain on Roman Zemian. This is the battle for the Pro-Am win at this point. Zemian still in front in that category right now. And of course Jafali and Zemian fighting it out for the overall earlier on, obviously when all the carnage happened and Polcini took the lead. Of course Osborne now chipping away at the wood to try and get the overall lead as well himself. So we're going to be having a battle, as Adam quite rightly said, in the last 2 remaining laps. Here's Jafali though, starting to really get closer and closer, tantalising on the rear of Roman Zemian as they now come out of turn 4 in towards turn 5 in the little right-handed kink leading down towards the Parabolica interior at turn 6. This Mercedes is so powerful, so speedy. Can she find a way through as they now come in towards the next left? Zemian still holding his own though for the time being as they now make the almighty climb up towards turn 7 before they take the deep descent. I tell you what, we've got battles across the grid.
Battles across the grid, battles across the classes. This is for the Pro-Am win. This is for the overall 3rd step on the podium as well. Lots of silverware on the line. It's Roman Zemian for now in the 73. Kessel Racing Ferrari. Rima Jafali just ahead. She would love to make it a double Pro-Am win here this weekend along with Adam Christodoulou. And they also may have to be careful of Kevin Giardoni. I'm not sure he's quite going to catch up to them in the next 2 laps, although it may just happen because he has been going quite a lot quicker in the 5th place car. And oh, Zemian with a big moment there. He spun it out of the Parabolica Ayrton Senna. We were hyping up the Pro-Am battle, but now the former and long-time Pro-Am leader has spun. He's facing the wrong way at the Parabolica Ayrton Senna. And as we go on to the final lap of the race, it's now listed as the final laps. They've decided that this will be it, even though there were still a few seconds on the clock when the leader crossed over the line. And I think that's because of the yellow flag at turn 13. They're going to end it this time by Polcini has just 1/2 of a lap between himself and victory. Joe Osborne is still there or thereabouts, and I don't think though the McLaren is going to get close enough. So there would have been, I believe, 2 more laps just based on the clock. However, with that obstruction at turn 13, the 73 car, I believe, is still there on the main straight. They've taken the correct call and they've said, okay, let's end this one early, especially if Zamian is stuck there on that particular section of the road. It'll be covered by double yellows, although actually the green flag is now out, so thankfully that car has been recovered by Roman Zamian. Nonetheless, it's Polcini through the S's for the final time. Joe Osborne trying his best to follow through. He's not going to be able to do it, however. Giardoni in 3rd place now. It's going to be another double podium for the Oregon team, and the 63, Leonardo Polcini, makes it 2 wins from 2 for he and Benji Hites. Amazing weekend for Oregon team. Osborne in 2nd, and there's proof of what I was telling you about. Giardoni has claimed 3rd on the very last lap, 3rd overall for the 19 car, and another Pro-Am win for Jafali and Chris Tulu. Rima Jafali was pressuring Zamian every ounce of the way, and ultimately a mistake from the Polish driver allowed Jafali to take the Pro-Am win. However, with the corrected times, I think Giardoni may have had a penalty there, because Jafali has now been switched back to 3rd in the overall classification too. So I think Giardoni must have gained a penalty earlier in the race. So Giardoni ultimately taking 4th, no double podium after all for Oregon team. Jedlinski taking 5th in the overall standing, 2nd in Pro-Am for the Olymp Racing team. Steve Jans in 6th overall. Great to see the 911 Get Speed Mercedes crossing the line in 6th. Yannick Mettler recovered up to 7th and 3rd in Pro-Am as well. So good job to Yannick Mettler and Dexter Muller, the SPS Automotive duo, claiming the 3rd place in Pro-Am, and that was a hairy moment for Roman Zamian. He did very well to keep that out of the barriers. Everyone else did very well to avoid this spinning Ferrari. He just lost rear traction. I don't know if he got a wheel on the curb there, but that was a scary moment. He did very well to hold on to it. No, it just broke traction before they even got to the curb. I think Zamian may have just been asking a bit too much of the car. And Zamian ultimately finished the race, I believe. Yes, crossed the line in 10th, but won't be happy with that, because what could have been for Roman Zamian, it could have been an overall podium, it could have been a Pro-Am win. Instead, Leonardo Polcini claims the overall victory. Joe Osborne in 2nd place for Optimum Motorsport McLaren, and Rima Jafali, the Pro-Am winner, gets an overall podium for FIBA Motorsport along with Adam Christodoulou. Kevin Giardoni in 4th place. Jedlinski rounding out our top 5. Then it was Steve Jans in the 911 car. Yannick Mettler in 7th place, as we said. Congrats to him. Moritz Kranz, Martin Conrad and Roman Zamian ultimately rounding out the top 10. Then it was Kiki Saknana along with Adam Osaka finishing in 11th place. In 12th was the Bernard Laber car, the 33. And I believe we're now going to take a look at what all of that has done to the points. There it is. Benji Hites and Leonardo Polcini claiming 30 points from the first weekend of the season. Osborne and Moss close behind on 24. 18 points for Jafali and Christodoulou, who will also be leading Pro-Am, tied on the points there with Van Berlo and Giardoni. It's been a remarkable weekend of racing action here at Estoril for the International GTOpen, and Leonardo Polcini, nonchalant as ever, with a little bit of a shrug as he got out of the car, but a big embrace with Benji Hites. These two will be ecstatic with their results. Good to see Christodoulou and Jafali there in the background as well, celebrating 3rd overall as well as the Pro-Am victory.
By the end, it was coming back on the last second.
We totally get that yo-yo, don't we? Like new tyre, full fuel.
Just listening there to Joe Osborne giving his own analysis and breakdown of the race. I thought he'd do it better than I could, hence I fell silent. Jafali and Christodoulou there in discussions as well. They'll be delighted with that one. Benji Hites describing his race to co-driver Leonardo Polcini, who put in a mighty drive receives the plaudits from the Oregon team. What a successful first weekend in International GTOpen. A first and a third yesterday, a first and a third on the road today that then became a first and a fourth when the penalties were applied. And of course they have to do the mandatory bits and bobs, the weigh-in and so on, but we will soon hear from this man Polcini as well as Benji Hites, and we'll get to celebrate with them as they take in the spoils on the podium as well. Polcini with another epic drive. There's my colleague George Morgan being interviewer now for the Pro-Am class winners, Jafali and Christodoulou. If you want to see their opinions on the race that was, you can head to the International GTOpen Instagram page where that will be published later on. Rima Jafali, of course, taking third place along with Adam Christodoulou for FIBA Motorsport in the Mercedes-AMG GT3. Second place to Joe Osborne and Nick Moss. Osborne and Moss claiming seconds for the Optimum Motorsport McLaren crew. And then, of course, our race winners, Leonardo Polcini and Benji Hites. Let's hear from them now. A double win in Estoril.
Benji, sorry. Benji Hites, Leonardo Polcini. Again, winners. You really mastered Estoril.
Yeah, it was a fun weekend. It was almost perfect. So we're really happy with the team, with everyone, with Leo. And yeah, the race was really tough. I made my move in the race start, taking P1 in class. Then we knew we had a 10-second handicap, so it was really important to be fast. And we did a little gap, and Leo could finish the job, so really happy for that. And yeah, I want to thank all my followers in Chile and all my sponsors, my son Nietzsche, Cherov, and Clean Gamets. Thank you very much.
Viva Chile. Leo, you had to do the overtakes this time.
Yeah, first of all, thanks to Benji that did a very good start, gained some positions. Then he had a really good pace to keep also our teammates behind. We knew that we are going to have a 10 seconds handicap. But as soon as I jumped in the car, I pushed like a hell and did some fast laps and put some gaps. Then at the end, it was a little bit a mess with the AM drivers to do an overtake, but I didn't want to risk it, and we have to bring important points for the championship. So we did it at the end, thanks to Oregon and the Lamborghini Sparacors.
Well done, guys.
Massive congratulations to those two. Let's see how they won the race. It was a dramatic occasion, the second race of the weekend here at Estoril. You see there the early lead was fought among the Pro-Am drivers, principally Axel Jeffries and Carol Bash, the pros of the Pro-Am crew, leading at the front of the pack, and then everyone, thankfully on this occasion, getting through the first lap unscathed. And there we see some attacking driving from further back. That was Glenn Van Berlo, who had a great scrap with Alain Valente that eventually went south, as you can see at turn 2. Valente and Van Berlo both end up off the circuit. Then Axel Jeffries tried his luck up the inside into turn 1 and did so successfully. Carol Bash had to hesitate out of the throttle and onto the brakes coming out to the final corner, which allowed Jeffries through at the first corner, but it wasn't long before Carol Bash immediately took the lead back. Adam Christodoulou in that third place car, the FIBA Motorsport Mercedes, also had a go, but couldn't quite find a way through, remained in third place. And then it was the turn of Leonardo Polcini at the wheel of the number 63 Procast car, taken over from Benji Hites, who had a solid start to the race. Fulcini then started picking off the Pro-Am cars, and it wouldn't be long before he found his way into the lead, and this certainly didn't hurt. A little bit of lap traffic, leaving the door open for Fulcini. Unfortunately, Rima Jafali having a bit of an off there as well, but she would still end up in third overall, ultimately, even with that small error. It was a checkered flag and a win for Fulcini and Hites. Joe Osborne claiming second along with Nick Moss. And then, just a lap from home, of course, we saw this for good measure. A huge moment for Roman Zamian. He did very well indeed just to keep that car out of the barriers. But what could have been, it would have been a Pro-Am win had that car stayed ahead of Rima Jafali in the final lap of the race. It was a race of drama. It was a race with lots of excitement, and everyone on this podium deserves their flowers, their champagne and their spoils. Rima Jafali and Adam Christodoulou already there on the podium. There are Joe Osborne and Nick Moss giving hearty congratulations to the pairing as well. And then our overall winners, our pro-class winners, Leonardo Fulcini and Benji Hites. And here's the national anthem. Always great to hear the Italian national anthem as trophies now presented to the drivers after a great weekend of racing. Adam and Rima getting applause from the FIBA Motorsport crew. Then the second place drivers, Moss and Osborne. They did a lot of testing here in the build to this first round, and I'd say it was paid off indeed. And a representative from the Motoring Club of Portugal handing over the trophies. Massive congratulations to everyone in that overall top three. The team representative from Oregon team looks delighted to be up there as well. He might not be in a minute though unless he scampers, because here comes the champagne and Benji Hites. Oh, they're all giving it large. There you go. You don't have to wear these race suits again before they go to the drive cleaners. And of course, they will also see the podium for Pro-Am. So Adam Christodoulou and Rima Jafali have another opportunity to take aim and fire with the champagne as well. Some discussions going on with the Am class. And Kiki Saknana there having a chat with the Mamba crew, the Manfilter Team Landgraf guys. And Adam Osaka stood there with Kiki Saknana. Kiki with a great first weekend. It was unfortunate that yesterday he had that collision with the chasing in that big skirmish that we had on the first lap of the race. He kept his nose clean today, and he'll get some silverware in the Am classification later on. There are the Pro-Am class podium, though. The number 54 car, Yannick Mettler, Dexter Muller in third place. Second place, Marcin Jedlinski and Karol Bash. And then again on the podium, Adam Christodoulou and Rima Jafali. Congratulations to all three parties there. A very well-earned podium. And here you see again the representative from Portugal giving us the trophies, the Automobile Club here in Portugal. And they've got a lot to be proud of with some of the fabulous circuits we have here in this part of the world. Estoril, of course, with 50 years of history, opened in 1972, so this is indeed its 50th anniversary this year. And Jafali and Christodoulou A historic win on historic turf and a selfie for good measure. Well done, Adam Christo. Thinking about the content for social media, no doubt. Rima again, the wisest driver in the paddock by far, disappears before the champagne can be sprayed. Adam Christodoulou, he's game for round 2 though, gives it large to everybody in his immediate vicinity. Congratulations to all of them. The AM podium will follow in short order here. The third place finisher in AM was actually Jamie Stanley along with Laurent de Meus. We saw that car quite heavily involved in the lead battle.
Go into the gravel, I know, I've seen it, yeah. Which is bullshit.
Oh, there's some language there. Apologies on behalf of Alexander Krakowina. But we will see the AM podium in just a few moments, and the third step will be taken by Jamie Stanley and Laurent de Meus from the AF Corsa stable. And there you go. Congratulations to these two. Jamie Stanley with a very wise drive, I think it must be said, in the second part of the race. Second place to Kiki Saknana and Adam Osaka. Huge congratulations to them. And just time to see our AM winners onto the podium. Martin Conrad, Alexander Krakowina, a mixed weekend. They retired in race number 1, but on their first GTOpen weekend since 2019, an AM win for them, Pro-Am win for Rima Jafali and Adam Christodoulou, and our overall winners, Leonardo Polcini and Ben Jahites. Congratulations to all from here at Estoril. We'll see you at Paul Ricard in 3 weeks' time.
Martin Conrad. Okay.